almost, I can't believe it's a real title, How the CIA Uses Animals to Spy.
This pigeon is a CIA spy. It's wearing a tiny high-tech camera, and it's about to gather intelligence
was right!
submarines. This is a dolphin. Right now, it's being trained to carry bombs and attach them to enemy vessels.
Hold on, wait. F the bird. The bird with a camera. There's a dolphin with a bomb?
Possibly miniaturized nuclear bombs. This raven isn't just flying around. It's on a mission. Currently, it's heading towards the hotel room of a KGB agent to plant a bug there.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Don't drag these beautiful creatures into your mess. No, absolutely not. Ravens, look. I was in Canada and it was nothing but beautiful, smart, juicy ravens, bro. They were all so intelligent and smart and cute and adorable. They have nothing to do with CIA. It's impossible.
And this cat has been sent to spy on a Chinese diplomat. It had a microphone.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Cats are juicy. It's an adjective.
This all sounds like science fiction, but animal spies are very real. Their stories have long been shrouded in secrecy, myths, and legends. But in 2019, the CIA released a large trove of previously classified documents.
Why'd they do that?
They give us a glimpse into how the CIA tries to weaponize animals.
You're looking juicy.
Today, we will look at the four most spectacular projects. They reveal a story of Cold War paranoia, unchecked hubris, absurd waste, spectacular failures, and wild ideas that were taken too far.
Yo, can I tell you guys something? Hold on, is a car about to hit the kitty cat? It's all my favorite animals they're using too. That really pissed me off, gang.
Based on declassified CIA documents. Of course, the CIA wants to present itself in a certain light, and it's careful about what it reveals. Some parts are heavily redacted, and sometimes other sources give conflicting information. We can only present what we know, and if we don't know something, we'll be transparent about it. As always, you can find our sources in the description.
Bro, we trust you. Go ahead.
Humans weaponize animals to make use of special capabilities they themselves lack. A dog's sense of smell is up to 10,000 times stronger than ours. It's perfect for sniffing out illegal drugs. To cross the Alps and invade Italy, the Carthaginian general Hannibal used war elephants. During World War II, the Polish army deployed a brown bear named Hannibal used war elephants.
What the fuck is Bro, what the fuck is a war elephant? What species is that?
During World War II, the Polish army deployed a brown bear named Wojciech to the Italian front. In Iraq, the US military worked with dolphins, putting their unparalleled echolocation skills to use detecting underwater mines. And some work with animals is veiled in secrecy. By their nature, it's hard to tell exactly how far these programs have progressed. In 2019, a beluga whale was discovered in Norwegian waters wearing a camera harness. A tag identified it as belonging to St. Petersburg, Russia.
Obvious.
It was quickly accused of being a spy. In 2007, Iran apprehended 14 squirrels near a nuclear
who did that?
The animals were arrested as spies.
Nigga.
In 2018, a senior military advisor told journalists that Western nuclear spies had been using lizards to collect information about Iran's nuclear program. Animals have an inherent advantage that human spies lack. People simply don't notice them. Unlike human agents or advanced technology like drones, animals can typically pass undetected, even in secure areas. But there's a problem. Animals are not natural spies. They need training. During the Cold War, the CIA faced a mighty adversary, the Soviet Union. In trying to claim the upper hand, the agency explored all sorts of methods, some of them highly unorthodox. Psychedelic drugs, mind control, silent killer weapons, stealing Russian submarines, and, of course, animal agents.
So you mean to tell me that they...
In the mid-1960s...
You know what I hate about this? This is like bad PR for these animals, gang. Leave ravens alone, bruh.
The CIA launched Project Axiolite. The goal was to provide reliable trained avian vehicles for emplacement, transport, and or recovery of reconnaissance surveillance.
It isn't.
To meet
I'm telling you, gang.
Requirements as defined.
Bro, human beings, nigga, these niggas is bots. Okay? Niggas get done watching The Lion King and think hyenas are bad people. You can't tell me that's not bad PR, bro. Like the day you find out sharks don't even like hunting humans, that's a crazy day because you got done watching Jaws. Come on, gang.
In other words, the CIA was training birds to transport things like recording devices. But which birds were spy material?
Hyenas are just ugly? That's cap too! They're adorable! They're like big dogs! They're so cute!
He's colossal.
They're so cute!
Like the biggest dog. It's like a huge dog. That's what it felt like.
No way, nigga just say ew. I heard yuck. Oh, you guys are sick. You're sick, dude. You're fucking sick.
Candidates,
You was eating good back then.
The cockatoo seemed to be a wild card.
No, not the parrots! Bro, leave my parents alone!
While Memo states, we are completely in the dark as to what the possibilities are in regard to this critter. There were high hopes for the hawks. Brandy and GB are two of the program's hawks. They were especially reliable and determined. They could locate
why don't they use a
objects
bald
and
eagle? That's
features in strange
American.
territory. They could carry a 13-ounce package for more than a mile. They could even remove objects from a harness they themselves were wearing. But in general, they were not considered strong flyers.
No.
Horned
Oh.
owls respond to a high-frequency whistle and can be recalled by trainers, even in extreme low-light situations. But in daylight, their ability to discern objects is much worse than that of other birds. As time progresses, one unlikely candidate stands out.
Raven.
Doodah, a raven.
Damn.
We now know that ravens are extremely intelligent birds.
Yeah.
They have excellent memories, can plan for the future, and are capable of using tools and solving puzzles. Researchers have found that 4-month-old ravens can perform certain cognitive tasks, as well as adult-grade apes. CIA documents usually stick to dry facts, but Doodah was Project Axiolite's superstar. In one memo, an agent dedicates a whole page to the saga of Doodah. Project Axiolite began at a Navy facility at San Clemente Island, off the coast of California. There, the CIA tested the strength of various birds. Their task, fly from the island to a boat and back. This might sound easy, but the distance was challenging, and the winds could be strong. Most birds could manage to fly between 50 yards and 1.5 miles. Doodah, meanwhile, flew 3.5 miles.
Damn, Doodah.
A few months later, he was almost doubling that distance.
Damn,
He was
Doodah.
also problem-solving. In every session, he would figure out exactly the right altitude he needed to fly for the unique wind conditions. Aggressive native birds posed a major threat to the CIA trainees. Wild gulls and ravens soon figured out their training schedule. Once they knew when the CIA birds would show up, they would lie in wait and then attack. But Doodah solved this problem too. To avoid the gulls, he'd keep to a higher altitude and outfly them. The wild ravens were another
Oh
matter.
my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. I literally love ravens even more after learning that. Yo, gang, they adjust that fast?
Would hide behind the bluffs, waiting for an opportunity to attack. Doodah's solution was to engage in brief dogfights with the ravens, while leading them further and further from shore. After about a mile, they would give up and turn back. Ravens' intelligence made them good at more than flying. According to Navy animal trainer Bob Bailey, they could be taught to recognize specific desks, open drawers, and carry heavy objects like file folders. The CIA started training ravens like Doodah extensively, and eventually used them in the field. According to the CIA documents, this is how they did it. A CIA agent wants to record a secret conversation
illegal?
between enemy agents. He knows where and when it's taking place, down to the building and the exact room. Now he needs to get a recording device close to the conversation, as inconspicuously as possible. To do this, he goes to a nearby building with a view of the targeted location, no more than 300 feet away. With him, he has a trained raven. At the appropriate time, he aims a tiny flashing laser at the window ledge outside the room where the conversation is taking place. Then he releases the raven from its cage. The bird takes a disguised listening device in its beak and flies to the spot indicated by the laser to plant the equipment. The agent then turns on a special desk lamp to signal to the raven that it's time to return. Later on, the raven is sent to a virtual desk lamp.
Hey, well, anybody that play Call of Duty know when you see this light right here, my nigga, you better strafe. You better jump, you better prone, you better crouch, nigga. There is a sniper rifle somewhere. This is too obvious. This and the red dot. Those are like the scariest things I could see.
To signal to the raven that it's time to return. Later on, the raven is sent to retrieve the recording device by the same method. At least, this is how it's described in the document, Operator's Manual, Avian Delivery System. In real life, things didn't go as smoothly. Training a wild animal to be a spy takes time. It takes planning. If the CIA is still training animals today, they're most likely using Udo's all-in-one management software.
No, they're
Spy
not.
training was only used a single time, and the attempt seems to have been unsuccessful. Unfortunately, Duda's luck eventually ran out.
No.
One day he was attacked by a pair of wild ravens he'd fought many times before. All 3 birds disappeared from sight,
No.
and Duda never returned.
No.
He was presumed killed in action. The saga of Duda mourns his loss. He was in a class by himself, writes his trainer. He had a very large bag of tricks and was loved by all. In view of these talents, I suppose I shouldn't have been too surprised when he so quickly became a star on this project. In spite of our deep sense of loss, writes the anonymous agent, we do understand such tragedies are inevitable. Ravens aren't the only birds the CIA used as spies. In secret locations across the United States, Project Axiolite was also busy turning the humblest of birds into covert eyes in the skies. It's September 1976. Aerial photographs show the Soviets building nuclear submarines in Leningrad. But the CIA needs more information. Spy planes fly tens of thousands of feet above their target, while satellites are restricted to space. From these distances, it's impossible to take detailed high-resolution photos. Enter Pigeons. A pigeon could fly about 100 feet over a target any time, day or night, and regardless of the weather. Most importantly, no one would notice it, and they could clearly be trained. Pigeons are no strangers to war.
How smart are they?
During World War II, the British National Pigeon Service would drop cases of the birds over occupied Europe.
What? The British National Pigeon Service? It's an organization?
People would send them back with information about daily life or even military details like troop movements. The key was their unique honing instinct. Anywhere you release a pigeon, it can find its way back home. Even today, this ability still isn't fully understood. To exploit
Is that
pigeons'
not
natural
obvious,
talents for
though?
aerial photography, the CIA's Office of Research and Development created special 16mm cameras and harnesses for the birds to wear. The harnesses were made of leather and attached to the birds with adjustable Velcro tabs. They were designed to allow the birds full freedom of movement while holding the camera steady during flight. The cameras were lightweight and miniaturized. Each had a small battery-powered motor that advanced the film and cocked the shutter. Each camera had its own timer. When it went off, the camera would take pictures for just a few minutes, resulting in 150 to 220 photos. Together, the camera and harness weighed just 39.5 grams. To produce useful images, pigeons needed to fly directly over their target at exactly the right time. But this could be difficult to arrange.
Yeah, sounds like
Once
it.
they were released, the pigeons would fly back home in a more or less direct line. If the target was located on that line, there was a fairly good chance the pigeons would fly over it. But in covert situations, it wasn't always possible to release pigeons in ideal locations. Some areas were restricted, others were too exposed. To get around this problem, CIA handlers tried to teach the birds ABC flight. Point A is the point of release, point B is the target, and point C is the pigeon's home loft.
Fuck do you teach him
To
that?
begin with, temporary targets a short distance away
Phoenix, think of it
were
we saw.
established at point B. When they flew to these targets, the pigeons were rewarded. Over time, they were conditioned to expect this reward. Next, the reward at point B was eliminated, but to receive a reward at point C, they had to fly over point B first. And that's how they trained a pigeon to move from A to B to C. Once the birds were conditioned, they moved on to longer training flights. Inflatable white radums 20 feet in diameter were used as point B. The CIA trained and tested birds in lofts in Oregon, Virginia, Missouri, and Alaska. Alaska, it was noted, shared certain geographical features with areas of interest in the Soviet Union. The training yielded mixed results. Birds were often lost along the way. Some birds simply flew away. Some were killed by wild birds. On the longer training flights, many
What you
birds
mean
flew too low.
what you mean they
along
flew
freeways
away,
or
nigga?
hit by cars. Birds sometimes disappeared while wearing the special equipment that had been developed for them. Losses were time-consuming and expensive. Each time a bird was lost, a new one had to be purchased and trained. Some of the photos taken were very high quality. Some missed the target entirely. Even when the birds were fully trained.
There's no way these niggas is training pigeons for these pics, gang. This is the photo? What type of action are you taking based on this photo? Like I said, is that a motherboard? No, nigga, this is the top of a building. And then you can see a car here in a parking lot.
Were very high quality. some missed the target entirely.
I mean, what camera is connected to this pigeon, man?
Even when the birds were fully trained, they could be relied on to complete their ABC mission only about 1 out of 4 times.
Hell no.
A sea flight still held potential, though. If the release point was chosen carefully, with the target area between it and the home loft, CIA analysts felt there was a high probability the birds would fly over the intended target and obtain the high-resolution photos required. So the CIA knows that the Soviets are building nuclear submarines in the Admiralty and Sudomex shipyards in Leningrad, now known as St. Petersburg, and it needs high-resolution photos. Time for the pigeons to shine.
Why didn't they just train ravens, gang?
Between himself and the pigeon's home loft. To do this
Are
without being
pigeons
detected
smarter?
will require clandestine release techniques. The documents mention 3 that are considered as options. One is releasing the birds from underneath a large overcoat. The second option is briefcases and shopping bags with trick bottoms. The third option is this Volkswagen Beetle. A hole is cut in the floor. When the car is parked, pigeons are released through the hole. They waddle out from underneath the car and immediately take flight. The operation is to go ahead by August 1978, but here the trail goes cold. It's unclear whether the operation actually ever happened.
This is pointless,
the
bro.
documents don't say.
Come on, man. All right, the Raven shit, it kind of worked a little bit, but they only had one. They got one standout. That's like if Shohei Ohtani was the only player on your fucking team, right? But you need to build a team around that. And they didn't have a team for him, bro. The Pigeons, it's like everybody on your team being Luke Ridnour. You're barely in the NBA. You know, you might struggle against some G League teams. The Dolphins, come on. The Dolphins are pretty smart creatures.
While the CIA's birds may have gathered invaluable aerial photo insights, other agents were being trained to sabotage enemy ships. This is James W. Fitzgerald. He's an engineer and physicist. It's 1964, and Fitzgerald has been thinking about dolphins a lot.
Is he?
At a cocktail party, he mentions that he believes the animals could be used in warfare. The person he's talking to happens to be an admiral in the U.S. Navy.
You know how fucked your brain has to be to see dolphins and think, hold on now, we can use these niggas in war. What does your childhood have to look like for that to be a thought that crossed your mind, gang?
He's intrigued enough to introduce Fitzgerald to someone from the CIA. Around the same time, the TV show Flipper debuts. It's about a crime-fighting dolphin in a marine reserve in the Florida Keys.
That makes sense.
Like most dolphins, Flipper is smart and friendly to humans.
A crime-fighting
well
dolphin show.
We'll never know whether Fitzgerald and the CIA were inspired by Flipper, but it is plausible. According to the Washington Post, at this point, the CIA sends Fitzgerald to Florida, where he establishes a small laboratory. The same year, the CIA begins its dolphin program, Project Oxygas.
Oxygas!
The aim of Project Oxygas is to show that dolphins can be used in attacks against enemy ships. To this end, harnesses and nose cones are created to allow the dolphins to carry items. Someone in the CIA even produces this drawing. The dolphins are happily towing the explosive devices given to them by their handlers on top of the submarine.
That's kind of fucked up.
The program quickly passes its first test. It demonstrates that a dolphin can place a simulated explosive device against the propeller of a PT boat anchored in the open sea. In November 1964, the Deputy Assistant Director of the Office of Research and Development writes that Project Oxygas has progressed more rapidly than we anticipated. It's unclear exactly what sort of simulated explosives these dolphins were carrying. The sentence that specifies this is partly redacted. The CIA probably planned on using conventional explosives, but if this was the case, why the need for secrecy? A 2021 article in Popular Mechanics suggests a haunting possibility. In 1965, miniaturized nuclear weapons might have seemed achievable in the near future. The magnitude of such an idea would certainly explain the need for continued secrecy.
Okay, even if you could make a miniaturized, a small bomb, nigga, a small nuke, why would you trust a dolphin with it? Excuse me? Right? Why would you just hand it to a dolphin, my nigga? I know they're smart creatures, but I'm sure he's not. I'm sure the little nigga not thinking, oh, I got a nuke on me right now. What's the point of this? Look, I don't know shit about defense, but nigga, just shoot There's no other device you can create? This feels like the most inefficient way to do something really simple, bro.
The program's first success unlocks other goals. Trainers explore having Dolphins place listening devices on enemy nuclear submarines.
Okay.
The hope is that directly attaching
Listening
the
device is not a
devices
bad
will produce
idea.
high-quality recordings that allow the CIA to better understand how the enemy's subs work. But wild animals are hard to train. One of the Dolphins' strengths is how social they are. They're willing to work, especially as they bond with their trainers. But at some point, this becomes a liability.
Why?
If the Dolphins are performing tasks that please their trainers, then in the field, they'll need extra time to bond with agents before they can be considered reliable. There are also questions about
They're
whether
so
Dolphins
cute.
can carry out operations over longer distances. At some point, the CIA seems to realize its limitations in understanding the Dolphins' capabilities, and it contacts the Navy's Office of Naval Research to help. In 1967, the program's focus changed to intelligence gathering. The Dolphins were to be trained to travel great distances, at least 12 miles. They would retrieve dead drops, items or information undercover agents had left behind in the water to be picked up. A memo from September 14th that year suggests that Oxygas had become a joint program of the CIA and the Department of Defense. The CIA seemed unsure that Project Oxygas would produce actionable results, and the program seemed to be running out of steam. A make-or-break demonstration was scheduled for December. At that time, it would be decided whether Project Oxygas would continue. The demonstration seems to have been a failure. After that time, there are no further mentions of the program in the CIA documents.
Wow, okay.
Surviving drawings and photographs gives us an idea of what Project Oxygas might have looked like.
Come on, gang. It kind of looks like a nuke, my nigga. Like the picture. Look, I don't know anything about nuclear devices, but this is what they kind of look like in the cartoons, bro. Just a deformed butt plug a little bit.
Glimpses of Project Ketchel are far more rare. But between the redactions, a hazy picture emerges of likely the oddest creature the CIA ever created. This is Acoustic. Acoustic is the legendary project of Project Ketchel, the CIA's dog and cat program.
What?
Of all the CIA's animal projects, Acoustic might have been the most controversial and the hardest to corroborate, depending on who you believe. The saga of Acoustic goes in fundamentally different directions. Here's the CIA story. In 1964, the agency wanted to be able to explore conversations held out in the open. Think two Soviet agents having a conversation in a public park. That required getting close and focusing.
Why don't they use dogs? They're such good boys. They fetch shit. They're fucking smart. They sniff the cocaine at airports. Cats don't listen to anything you say, bro. They're selfish as fuck. Too big? Too obvious. Huh.
In on the conversation without attracting attention. The solution is cats, who can often prowl around without people ever noticing them. A microphone is surgically placed inside a cat's ear canal. A transmitter is placed underneath a bunch of loose skin. An antenna is woven into its fur. The whole procedure is low risk, humane, and minimally invasive. But the cat is still a cat. It can be trained only so far. Eventually it will do what it wants. Acoustic was never deployed in the field, and the listening devices were carefully removed from its body. But Victor Marchetti, who was special assistant to the CIA's deputy director in the 1960s, tells a very different story. Here's his version.
Yo, Nav, thank you for the 5 gifted subs, man. Cats can clean themselves? Nigga, are you dropping random cat facts in the chat? What the hell does that have to do with a cat turning into a listening device? What does that have to do with anything, bro? Appreciate you, Nav. Another 5 gifted, bro. Love, man.
It's sometime in the 1960s. The CIA puts a Chinese diplomat in France under surveillance. But their bugs don't just pick up his conversations. They record all the noise in the room, including the squeaking of the couch. Individual voices are inaudible. This is characteristic of the microphones of the day, which tend to record everything around them indiscriminately. The anatomy of ears, on the other hand, allows us to focus on certain sounds and exclude others. This and your brain's auditory processing abilities are why you can have a conversation at a noisy party without being overwhelmed by every sound.
Or why you could ignore your fire alarm for mad long.
It would direct the microphone inside its ear. According to Marchetti, to implant the equipment, they slit the cat open, put batteries in him, wired him up, including putting a power pack in his abdomen.
look up, but you keep playing my love.
Okay. I just realized I had my headphones on. So they turned this cat into cyborg.
The tail was used as an antenna. They made a monstrosity.
What the fuck is this?
To
audio?
focus on a single conversation, Acoustic Kitty would need to be trained. His handlers found that hunger or sexual arousal would cause him to simply lose interest and wander off, so they attached wires to his brain to monitor and neutralize those impulses. Marchetti claims the CIA did attempt to use Acoustic Kitty in the field. The cat was then put on a test, sent across the street to eavesdrop on a conversation, being monitored by a van loaded with equipment. And as this poor little monstrosity waddled across the street, a taxi cab came down and ran over it.
Cap. I refuse to believe that. This is a lie. They're not telling the truth, bro. There's no way. Cats are the most agile. They have the craziest reflexes of any animal, my nigga. You mean to tell me it just sat there and got hit by a taxi? Fuck no. If this was a listening acoustic deer, then I would say, yeah, I could see that. Right? A moose, potentially. But not a cat. Something else happened to this cat, bro. It just happened to get hit by a taxi.
So it was $25 million down the drain. $25 million was a lot of money then. The CIA disputes all this. On its website, it claims that Marchetti's comments were meant to be a joke, and the unclassified documents are no help. The single document about Acoustic Kitty is heavily redacted.
It had wires in his brain? Oh, you're right. It might have been
fucked in the head. The CIA didn't just train and transform animals, it also recreated them.
It still is now? How much did you say? 25,000? Worth 50 years ago. Oh my God, 200,000. 25 million. 200 million? You're lying. They spent, you mean to tell me they took $200 million to mic up a cat? No comment.
This looks like a dragonfly, but look closer, it's a machine, the Insectothopter. The CIA created this tiny gas-powered listening device back in the 70s. It contains a microphone, and it can flap its wings rapidly and fly just over 600 feet in a minute, guided by a laser beam. A remarkable technical achievement, with some serious limitations. Even a light breeze can throw it off course immediately. It was never used operationally. In a memo, the CIA's Deputy Director of Research and Development wrote that unfocused experimentation in the animal programs represented the worst kind of waste in terms of manpower and money. The unclassified documents often suggest that the CIA was simply exploring what animals could do without having any real objective in mind. And the results are somewhat disappointing. Ravens were trained for years just to be killed by wild birds. Pigeons randomly disappeared with gear worth thousands of dollars. And depending on who you believe, an expensive cyborg cat was at best useless in the field, and at worst immediately hit by a car. The declassified documents suggest that by the mid-1970s, the animal projects had fizzled out.
Sounds about right once you spend $250 million on a mic for a cat.
The quest to weaponize animals continues. The United States Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, known as DARPA, has been running programs aimed at controlling insects for espionage. In 2020...
Okay, alright bro, it gets to a point, gang. What do you mean insects for espionage? Why, what's the odds an insect is gonna come back with anything useful for us? And how many hundreds of millions do you think that took? Bro, come on, gang. At least we started with smart creatures. Insects?
Oh, a team at MIT announced that it had developed a neural probe that plugged into moths' nervous systems, allowing for their flight to be controlled.
Remote control
Engineers
insect.
at the University of Washington have implanted moths' antenna into the Smellithopter, a drone that can actually pick up smells. And in 2018, DARPA announced the Persistent Aquatic Living Sensors program. The program explored the possibility of using aquatic creatures as living alarm systems. That includes bioluminescent bacteria, which light up when disturbed by aquatic intruders. Another option was to study the sounds produced by snapping shrimp and Goliath grouper. In the case of the shrimp, disturbances in the audio could even indicate the size and shape of an intruder. It remains to be seen whether DARPA or the CIA can harness the natural world for intelligence purposes, or whether wilderness will remain just that.
Insanity.
Maybe someday we'll discover whether any real success stories lie within all those redactions.
Insanity. I don't know what to say. This is bizarre. It's like we're the apex predators, Gango. We're the king of this world shit until the AI take over in 10 years. We're him. Why? What business do we have using less intelligent creatures just because they're more covert? Nigga, come on, man. Just use them more. Come on, bro. That's inefficient, my nigga. 250 million on Mike and a cat. Insanity. We made AI. Look, I don't know what to tell you, bro, but I believe the AI experts, we're going to be the dumb ones. In 10 years' time, there's going to be AI way smarter than all of us. And as soon as it's convenient to, it's going to replace all of us. And then if your job is replaceable, which like 40% of them are, I think it's going to be AI content creators, and Amazon is going to have AI bots moving boxes and shit. It's all going to be AI. It's going to cut costs. And you might think, oh, maybe things are going to be cheaper because they're going to cut costs. No, nigga, it's just going to be trillionaires, all right? All the billionaires you see today are going to turn into trillionaires. And there's going to be a crazy unemployment rate. And then they're going to have to do universal basic income. And it's going to be just like half the country is going to be completely fucking impoverished so that there could be trillionaires.